Never could we have imagined looking through the gates on day one of viewing our property. There was lots to do, we knew, but the gardens, although beautiful, were quite unkept. And so never could we have imagined also that we would end up with such an abundance of beautiful. Things were quite overgrown and really a little bit dull and dreary. We didn't really look at the garden when we purchased the property, thinking we just had a lot of work to do, which we were up for, and little did we know within a week we would be in lockdown in France. The beginning of being able to see just how beautiful our garden was when the beautiful bees arrived and our rose bushes started to blossom. These bees are just adorable. They're so big, as are most of the roses here at Le Parc Arts. All of our roses are very ancient, and the garden was planted in 1964. So if anybody has any ideas or information about these roses, would love to hear in the comments below. Here is just a little montage. Actually, it's quite long because I couldn't choose which ones to leave out. Perfectly pink. A lot of the roses here are pink. They have the most incredible scent, and that actually there is just one branch of a rose bush. So it's incredible. In Brisbane, in Australia, we had one rose bush on our property. We weren't gardeners at all. We wanted to be gardeners. Our garden was a native garden, native Australian garden. So it was very planned and landscaped. We didn't need to do much to it. We didn't have time actually with our busy lives. So to come here and actually be surrounded by my most favourite flower, the rose, and in so many different forms. We have so many pink varieties. New ones appear and have done over the last 12 months. This is a montage taken from last season. It's just unbelievable. You could spend all day just visiting every rose bush, which I actually do quite often. And it just goes on and on and on. So with the abundance of roses and my interest in perfume and scents and making candles and soaps, I have spent quite a bit of time in developing the extraction of our own rose oil, which has been really interesting. I have discovered an ancient way, an Indian method of extracting oils from many, many, many petals. So for each rose type, I collected many beautiful petals. Just never get tired of looking at these beautiful, beautiful roses. Needless to say, I also bring them into the house, and actually in the mornings when you open up our shutters and our windows during the spring, really summer months, it is the most abundant time. The whole house just fills with the scent of Le Parc Art roses. I believe that most of them were planted in 1964. This we know from a little diary that we found in the pigeonnerie here on the property, and it was handwritten by the lady of the house. It was so beautiful. When I met her daughter and showed her the diary, she became quite emotional and really wanted to have the diary, so I gave it to her. I have kept some of photos of the diary, and we are in the process of documenting our own diary, starting from 2020 when we first moved in. Every day is just a new thing to discover here. The colours are just exquisite, as is the scent. These variegated roses, I just can't even explain how beautiful they are. It was a late discovery. It actually flowered much later than any other bush and continued. The double-hearted rose, I'm not sure what that is, but we often see many of them where there seems to be two centres. The rose sizes are incredible. The actual root or the base of the rose bushes are very large, so I'm not doubting that they were planted in 1964. The property had its own gardener, and unfortunately we went into lockdown and didn't get to talk to him. Still looking for him. So needless to say, we're just in all kinds of beautiful here. I had to include this photo coming up, an iris, which was one of the first flowers we saw when we come on that dreary day. My mum's name was Iris, and she passed just before we left Australia. Also love to create different types of arrangements. Not entirely great at it. I was very lucky back in Australia to discover Marie Vick, who is a gifted florist. It's beautiful to have flowers everywhere in your home. We're so lucky to be able to do this. So every table, every meal that we have always is surrounded with flowers. And in Australia, I used to have to buy my flowers at the florist, so they were already arranged. I didn't really need to even think about them much. I adored having them in my house, in my home. But to be able to actually create an arrangement for any table, just a breakfast table, is just pure pleasure. Very thankful. She taught me much about floral arrangements and just has a similar ethos to me, just wanting to be surrounded by beautiful. And Maria's beautiful, and it shines through her floral art. She also inspired me to actually just go for a walk and pick wildflowers, which a couple of my videos talk about the wildflowers, but just to be able to pick them, I never would have considered it once. I would have just appreciated them as I walked past, but just to have a little collection of wildflowers. And the daisies here, which come up around this time of year, our lawn is actually just a sea of daisies. And of course, the Make-A-Wish dandelions I love. Nothing is wasted here. I dry the petals to make our own potpourri. These next shots are of my experimenting with extracting our own rose oils and developing different scents for each rose. They do have a particular scent, and a blend of all of them I have called the Parc Arts roses, and it's just divine. So the roses are red, are exquisite, and have their very own scent. I just played a lot with the petals. Roses and lavender, of course, just beautiful. A maman iris. I put some irises in with a blend of all of the Le Parc Arts roses, just as a memory for my mum. And I love to smell it, and I have candles that I've made, so that's beautiful. The pastel pinks actually didn't retain their colour very well in the oils. Not that that's a great issue. They certainly smell absolutely beautiful. Had to do some orange oil just because this took quite a few days of steaming. The Indian method that I use is an ancient one, and so you bring the oil, which is a natural vegetable oil or grapeseed oil you can use, just something that's pure, and you bring it up to a temperature 6 times and let it cool in between. So out of it, I can't even begin to think how many petals I actually used to get this amount of oil. They're tiny bottles, maybe 20 milliliters. So just a little touch of what we do, make candles, use the scent. Of course, inspired by my beautiful lily. Just to finish off, just had to share our beautiful tulips, which have just exploded here. We were wondering when they might appear, and the very next morning we got up and voila. They just make you feel so happy. Even though now we're having some beautiful weather, we're in for another little cold snap, so I just love to be able to look at these photos while I'm making the videos. But also on my screensaver on my computer is actually all flowers. Hope you've enjoyed this little touch of beautiful from the Parc Arts France. Oh, and this one popped out today. It's a variegated one. Always something beautiful to see. If you like my videos, please share and subscribe, and follow us on Facebook.